Hello, guys. Before we continue, I was meaning to make this yesterday, but I went somewhere with my niece. I went somewhere with my niece, so yeah. Right now, let's continue on with the whole Finance and Freddy's lore, shall we? Here we are.
Be the one to rebuild this family, to rebuild the pieces of that shattered life, to reclaim the kids that Fazbear had stolen from her. But how? Looking at William's work
Wait,
now laid out
how?
before.
Wait. Oh no! Don't tell me you're going crazy like William Afton when he was trying to use robots. When he's trying to make animatronics to rebuild his children. Huh? I bet he won't succeed just like William Afton failed to do.
Her, she knew that he had been onto something, collecting remnant, robotic humanoids, digital conscience transference. The pieces were all in place, they were just scattered, fragmented. It was almost like there were too many ideas going in too many different directions. It was such an important idea that she reiterated that point to herself. There were too many ideas going in too many different directions. That said, there had to be a way to save it all. She just needed to put it all back together. But how? To rebuild her family, she would first need to rebuild the franchise that had stolen them away from her. With ownership over the characters, their licenses, the
Wait, so
technology
she
patents, and the
created
Fazbear name, she converted the
Finance
corporation
and
back
Freddy's
to an
Constri-
LLC, a structure for smaller businesses that are
Security
usually family
Breach?
owned. The
She's the
irony
one
was
who
fitting.
created
From there, she
that,
would need remnant,
besides
and
William
lots of it.
Afton?
Remnant was the key. Clearly, in the later years of his life, William had been using Circus Babies
Because if
Entertainment and
William
Rentals as a
dies,
remnant
how
fund,
did
sending robots to kids'
Security
birthday
Breach
parties in the hopes
exist?
of nabbing
Did
bits of the stuff
Vanessa
here and there.
own
But
a piece
clearly,
of
it wasn't
glaze?
enough. He had, what, like 4, maybe 5 animatronics going out every week? No. It was a decent idea, but to get the remnant they required, it needed scale. Dozens, hundreds of animatronics all out there, all gathering remnant from unsuspecting customers. But to do that would require help, something William would never ask for. William had kept everything in-house. His obsession with control limited him. Clara, though, she wasn't nearly that precious. A plan like this required partners, people outside of Fazbear to do the heavy lifting. So she contacted a mid-sized delivery company, DLZ Shipping Solutions, to help build replicas of all the original animatronics. And with meal delivery apps being all the rage, why not an animatronic delivery service? Order one to celebrate your birthday, your Halloween party. How about a 4th of July picnic? We'll invite Liberty Chica and 4th of July Freddy on over. She would make sure that they made skins for every occasion. Chocolate Bonnies for Easter, Shamrock Freddy's for St. Patrick's Day, Dia de los Muertos Chicas. And thus, the
That does
Fazbear
sound
Funtime
fun.
service was born.
That's right. With the Fazbear Fun Time service, you'll never be alone again. You'll always have someone watching your back.
Was it ridiculous? Absolutely. Was it a sellout? No doubt. It was exactly the sort of thing that William would have hated, but it needed to be done to get enough
Exactly.
remnant. Normally, the novelty of ordering an animatronic wore off after
Because you know what happened
1,
when
maybe
Harry
2 times, but with new
take
skins for
credit
new holidays,
taking
suddenly you
away
had
things
yourself an animatronic perfect for
that
every
he did.
occasion. It would keep people hooked. It would keep them ordering the latest and greatest that Fazbear Entertainment LLC had to offer. And all the while, they'd be collecting and returning the remnant back to her.
What's
In a
gonna
word,
happen
it
next? One of
was
the animatronics
brilliant.
would kill
There was
my
just one problem with it. No one trusted the Fazbear name. The company's brand was still
Yeah,
mud
she
in the
did
public
die.
eye. No one would want to hire animatronics from the restaurant franchise known for murdering children. Nothing kills a party quite like the threat of death, you know. So she needed to find a way to discredit the stories that had come before. She needed to win back the public's affections, reactivate some nostalgia for the spooky stories of their childhoods. She needed a game. Multiple games, in fact.
They lied to us. They lied to all of us. They told us that the whole point of this VR game was to undo the bad PR done by a rogue indie game developer. But that's not true at all. Those indie games were designed to conceal and make light of what happened. This isn't just an attempt to rebrand. It's an elaborate cover-up.
Struggling game developers were a dime a dozen online, most working on their magnum opus between shifts at the Dollar General. So she found one. Steve just picked him out of obscurity. The right mix of desperate
Steve?
doofus willing to say and do
what?
anything for a couple extra bucks. And he fell
The
right
guy
in line,
just
as
created
expected,
Fridays or
delivering
Freddy's or
stupid little
something?
things with
I don't
dumb
get it.
generic names like Mangle's Quest, Balloon Boy's Air
Oh, that's
Adventure,
sad.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Bad gameplay with even worse graphics, but hey, they got the job done. People were suddenly talking about the clues inside of these things, searching for the hidden lore. They were actively making jokes about dead kids at pizzerias. Her husband's twisted history of serial murder had suddenly been reduced to a mere Nancy Drew mystery to be solved. The plan had worked. Freddy Fazbear's was suddenly more popular than ever. Things were going shockingly well. Her takeover and reboot of the franchise was full and complete. Suddenly infused with cash, she built the largest, most ambitious project yet, the Mega Pizzaplex. William had always been so
Well, that's
visionary, but always
creative
thought so
besides
small
Freddy
scale. He
Fazbear
was
Pizza.
careful to a fault. Not her, though. She knew that this latest project needed to be big. It needed to be flashy. It needed to be a palace for children, a place that got people talking and checking out the latest in Fazbear products. So with a steady supply of remnant flowing in, it was finally time. The stage was set. It was time to get to her real goal, literally rebuilding a family.
Yeah. Wait, rebuilding the family. Let me guess.
March
How's that gonna
2035. The first
happen?
was obvious.
Wait,
Crying
March
child, her little boy, the one
35?
that was the first to get ripped away from her. She'd
Freaking
seen down in his bunker
35?
that
What?
William had gotten very close to replicating artificial humans using animatronic technology. And so that's exactly what she would do. Rebuild her boy from the ground up using robotic parts. His shaggy brown hair, his favorite striped shirt, even down to small details that no one would notice, like the band-aid on his left knee.
Crying
William's
Child?
research
Is
had
that
even
a real
found ways
book?
of making
I guess
animatronics
I
that
should
could
buy
bleed
it
and
and read
process
it.
food, making them
Or
virtually
just get it
indistinguishable from a
on
typical human. He would
Playground
never have any idea of what
on
he actually
Amazon.
was unless he was explicitly told. The only things that could possibly ruin the illusion were any
Gregory
overrides to his internal systems.
from
If
that
something were to
game?
say interfere with the cameras that he had in his eyes, or cause some sort of a core reboot
Wait,
to his hard
so
drive, or x-ray his
Gregory is
metallic
the
bones,
robot
then
the
yeah,
whole
he would be
time?
exposed. But otherwise, to the outside world, he was just your typical normal human boy. She worked down in the bowels of the Pizzaplex, giving him life, but it was one thing to build him, it was another to help him remember his identity. He died so young, so early in their history that there was no preserved memories for him, no documentation that she could just download into his digital brain. So bit by bit, she trained him, forcing him to remember who he was. In a corner of the room, she even made a makeshift dinner table, a reminder of their happier days. The family recreated: 2 brothers, a sister, a father, and the mother at the head of the table. The one in charge, the one in command, the one bringing all of this to fruition. But his progress was admittedly slower than she would have
Wait,
liked.
so
At first,
she
he could only
created
communicate through simple
Gregory
ones and zeros,
and
then
make
rudimentary
him the
drawings
crying
and crude
child.
letters. But bit
What?
by bit, images of his past life started to come through. Balloons, colors, houses, bears and faces,
Wow.
birthday parties.
He's
All
actually
for
an
me.
animatronic.
Gregory was alive. As the robot boy embraced her, she felt a warmth that she hadn't in decades. This was the joy that she'd been working towards. This was what it was all for. Her son, back in her arms again. The plan was working. She had to keep going. Next was
Oh
William.
no,
If the
she's
family was
playing
truly going to
evil.
be put together, she would need him. And she knew exactly where he was. In the ruins of that old Freddy
No,
Fazbear's pizza place where Henry had trapped him. In fact, that's
don't break
specifically
him
why she
back.
insisted on building
No,
the
he should
pizzaplex
go back
there
to
over
killing
the sinkhole.
people.
It's the best place to hide what her true intentions were with the entire
That's a
operation.
terrible
Digging
idea.
through the
Just bring your
wreckage,
kids
she found
back.
him. He was right where she thought he'd be. Seeing the
Just bring your
putrid
kids
shell
back,
of the
not
Springtrap
William.
suit, though, was not something she was prepared for. The rotting corpse of William Afton was disgusting. Scorched flesh fused into the fur lining,
Nice.
hollow black sockets where eyes once were, a smell that reeked of burned carbon and bloody iron. He was no longer flesh. It was just the tangled sinews of a creature that was once called human. How far this
What the crap
brilliant
is that?
man had fallen.
What-
It was
what-
clear
what
that her work
playground
was
is
cut out for
that?
her on this one. Afton was practically lifeless. The man may not have been able to die, but he was about as close as you could come. And his body would need a lot of reconstruction. Replacement arms and endoskeleton reinforcements were the top priority. Maybe pulled from their new line of glam rock animatronics. She'd have to see if they had any spare Bonnie parts lying around that they could steal. In the meantime, though, she threw the husk that was once her husband into a life support pod infused with aerosolized remnant to help keep him stable. But
Oh,
more important than
no.
recovering his body
She's
was
the one
recovering
who
his
bring back,
mind. In his current state, he was
what?
comatose, an empty shell. Severe brain damage starts at temperature.
She's the one who bring back William Afton the whole time? That's why he appeared in Security Breach? Well, I heard a lot of people that he appeared back. I heard a lot of people that he appeared. But what? So she's the reason? I thought he has immortality, but he actually died, and she brought him back by using animatronics and life force. What? This is a horrible idea. Oh my god! Now he's gonna. No wonder why he came back. This guy cannot. This guy cannot die. This guy. I thought he has immortality, but nope, he doesn't. Just brought him back. He just got brought back by his wife. What? Oh my god. Just bring back your kids, not William Afton. So he actually died and he was resurrected. I'm honestly not surprised. Same how the crying child was alive. Oh my god. Gregory is the crying child. The whole just to resurrect his her own son. What?
Temperatures over 100.
Wait, so Gregory name is Gregory Afton? No way. Gregory Afton. Wow. I'm not surprised at all.
8 degrees Fahrenheit, 42 degrees Celsius, and years of repeated fires had burned his brain to goo. Gone was the brilliant, frustrating mind that had drawn her to him in the first place. But she had a plan. Unlike her darling boy Gregory, Afton had found ways to record his consciousness. Fundamentally, the brain is only a series of electrical connections after all, so why couldn't you replicate that in the form of a standard circuit board? In essence, you could create a digital consciousness. And one thing she knew about William, he was nothing if not cautious. A planner, someone who had backup plans to his backup plans. And sure enough, there it was, buried in piles of old animatronic CPUs, a record of Afton himself. But she needed someone to test it.
Someone was definitely here during the night. It had to have been the client. I mean, they sent us that stuff in the first place with no explanation, told us to scan it, said it would expedite the process so we wouldn't need to program any pathfinding ourselves.
Unlike the other games that she'd paid to have made it in the past, this one had a different purpose. This wasn't about PR, it was about getting William back up and running, spreading his virus to the masses.
You acknowledge that
So he's a
Fazbear
virus
Entertainment is
now?
not responsible for accidental digital consciousness transfers,
Wow.
real-world manifestations of digital characters.
She hired a new
was killed
developer,
by
Silver
William
Parasol
Afton, she
Games,
gets
to
to
scan the
blame.
boards and bring her husband into the system. And because of the
Well,
immersive
stupid
nature of
idea.
VR, William's consciousness would be able to merge with the player, giving him a new body, a new agency. There was just
Oh
one
my
complication.
God.
Afton's
No
hold
wonder
wasn't as
why he
powerful
looks
as she had hoped.
he
He
looks
wasn't able to
crazy.
gain complete control. The first trial run, Jeremy, was so desperate to escape from his grasp that he sliced his own face off with a paper shredder. Messy. Afton's followers were reluctant, to say the least. But it was the second attempt that looked like it had the potential to kill two birds with one stone. Enter Vanessa. Mrs. Afton wanted a surrogate daughter. Her darling Elizabeth would have been a young woman at this point if she had lived. And Clara wanted someone who wasn't Elizabeth but could be just like her. Could she have just rebuilt her like Gregory? Sure, but she decided against it because she wanted an actual human mother-daughter connection. Well, that, and it would be redundant and narratively unsatisfying to have two robot kids in the same family. What could she say? William had put a lot of tools on the table for her to use, and she was planning on using them all. Plus, Elizabeth had always been so loyal to Daddy. It was time to give her a second chance, a true choice.
But
And Vanessa
how?
seemed to be the perfect candidate to fill the role.
Your dad's name was Bill? Your dad didn't play fair, did he? He used to make your mum look bad in court. He manipulated you. I know your mum after she lost the custody case. I was supposed to be a good girl.
She started as a QA
What?
tester at Silver Parasol Games, a VR game
So-
development company that was part of her plan to bring
What?
back William. But more importantly, Vanessa
that's
checked
why
all the
they-
correct boxes. Right
What?
age, blonde, green eyes with a fondness for flowers.
Wait. Wait. So that's why the movies change. You know, the movies make a change that Vanessa is William Afton's father when she's not. All because that her mother possesses what? Oh, what? So they did this because what? What is going on?
And the outdoors. In many ways, it was her daughter all over again. Except it wasn't just looks and personality. What really mattered was Vanessa's mind. Underconfident, coming from a broken home, motherless, able to be manipulated. Yes, she would do nicely. She would be the one to save dear old daddy, just as the real Elizabeth would have wanted.
I will make you proud, Daddy.
While testing the VR game, William's digital consciousness merged with Vanessa. Oh sure, she fought, fragmenting Afton's code into a series of tapes hidden across the game, trying to do web searches to regain control over her life, but it wasn't enough. She was weaker than Jeremy. She was a thrall that, despite occasional moments of lucidity, had to obey. And with Vanessa, it was a 2-for-1 deal. She was getting a daughter back, while also bringing her husband one step closer to reactivation. She just had to make sure that Vanessa was headed the right way. The reborn Gregory was an expert hacker, part of the benefits of being an Afton and a robot, so Clara had him keeping tabs on Vanessa, hacking into her emails and trailing her therapy sessions to ensure the future Elizabeth was falling in line. If any of the therapists started to ask too many questions, they were promptly dismissed from their positions. And while Gregory kept tabs on Vanessa's personal life, Mrs. Afton made sure to clear a path for her professionally. With Silver Parasol's collapse at the hands of the anomaly, she then had the possessed Vanessa bring the contaminated circuit boards to DLZ shipping and the Fazbear Funtime service. More glitches, more Remnant, more Afton. But it was her last move that was the best. In a true masterpiece of poetry, she brought Vanessa over to be Chief Security Officer at the Pizzaplex. A true family tradition to don the hat and badge, and all it took was a recommendation from the top as well as some emails marked for deletion. Sure, Vanessa didn't have relevant experience for the job, but when it comes directly from the CEO, does it really matter? Husband, son, daughter. A corpse, a robot, a human. All that was left was Michael. Poor, troubled Michael. The boy that killed her youngest. Right. The one that would spend years trying to make his guilty conscience right again. A self-professed protector. Well, she knew she needed him to complete the family. Something told her that the problem had already solved itself. Something had shifted when using Glamrock Freddy to excavate the buried pizza place.
I have been here before. I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path. I have changed. My friends are here, but I can protect you. I am not me.
Maybe it was the remnant that had coursed through Michael's veins. Maybe it was the spirit of Michael living on as a protector. But he was there, somewhere inside of Glamrock Freddy.
Why Freddy seems good.
Just like that, she'd won. She'd done it. Sure, there were still some kinks to work out, some final brainwashing of Vanessa, some rehabilitation of William, but they were there. Finally, all together again under one roof. The Aftons reunited. A happy ending. And that's how it could have ended. That's how it should have ended, had it not been for a few unanticipated developments. For one, something was just wrong with the Pizzaplex. Almost as if the entire building was haunted, possessed. Puppet plushies hiding on ceilings, behind crates, places that they had no earthly way of belonging. Staff bots with greasy tears down their eyes, acting like they were being puppeteered by some sort of a nightmare. Even their sounds had the echo of nightmares long past.
Once Fortnite skins. How fun will it be to stop worrying about the default?
It was as though a guardian spirit of the past refused to move on. As long as her husband was around, it too would linger. Only now, it wasn't just in one body, but it was in the essence of the building itself. She had seen stories of houses built on burial grounds getting possessed by angry spirits, but she'd never assumed that it could be real. Then again, in a world of living spirit metal and mind-controlling glitches, who was she to be so judgmental? The whole thing was ridiculous. Why would this be the line that she refused to cross? After all, the Pizzaplex was built over the burial ground of angry spirits, but it was the power cords that finally convinced her that something was wrong. Suddenly, these cords were striped black and white, like the security puppet from generations ago. The very foundations of this place, the materials and wires that constituted it, were rebelling against her, against the Aftons, against the quest to bring them all together again. And it was being helped by something else, something slithering through the building. Maybe they were connected, she couldn't be sure, but a blob of living wires could be heard oozing through the walls, stealing pieces and parts of the old animatronics showcased in Rockstar Row. She could only assume that it was a byproduct of all the remnant they'd been collecting. From Afton's testing, she knew that both light and dark remnant existed, one of positive emotions and the other created from anguish, anger, agony. Perhaps this thing was an amalgamation of all the darkest
Oh my
parts of the
god.
pizzeria's
What the
history, a
crap is
collection of the
that?
hatred still housed inside these defunct endoskeletons and exosuits. As long as it was left alone, it seemed to be harmless. But if any Afton outside of Michael got too close, it would lash out wildly. Even young Gregory, looking to punish the family that had been complicit in its horrible creation. Little did she know, though, that Gregory should have been her biggest concern, that bringing the family together would have some unforeseen consequences. Gregory was normally the goodest of boys. She had literally built him that way. But lately, he'd been disappearing more and more often,
so he was
disobeying her
created?
orders. Requests. She knew that he loved playing on the arcade machines once the Pizzaplex closed, being so good as to top the leaderboard on practically all of them. But lately, he was nowhere to be found. She suspected his absence had to do with Glamrock Freddy's failed performance the other night, when he malfunctioned live on stage, almost as though the core programming of Freddy responded to seeing this rebuilt small boy. Almost like it awakened something inside of him. She'd have to make sure that Vanessa was on the lookout for him. But she'd soon come to learn that Vanessa wasn't enough. Whether it was the influence of the nightmare puppet or a reawakened hatred of animatronics seated deep in Gregory's code, something had caused him to rebel, to rip apart each animatronic in the Pizzaplex. Bit by bit, this boy was tearing down the empire that she'd so painstakingly built, freeing Vanessa from her mind control, destroying the remains of Afton in the basement, setting Glamrock Freddy loose. As her carefully created world crumbled around her one more time, she began to plot her revenge. She would have to bring them all to ruin. And there you have it, my friends. Nearly a decade in the making, my FNAF timeline for where the franchise is here in 2023. Year of Fazbear Frights, by the way. As always, it wouldn't be right for me to finish without going over some of the more controversial takes that I just handed out. I think we can all agree that this part of the timeline was always going to be the hardest. So let me just break down some of the major points. First of all, the biggest swing, and obviously the one that everything else rests upon, Mrs. Afton being the CEO of Fazbear Entertainment LLC. Here's why I went with this route. Now, first and foremost, the head of Fazbear Entertainment is the single biggest mystery that we're meant to solve at this point in the lore. The Ultimate Guide brings it up repeatedly. Who's running the show? Who is okaying these decisions? And in the security breach memos, we get multiple mentions of someone manipulating things from the top down. Whoever this is, they are the person driving forward every other facet of late-stage FNAF lore here. They're the puppet master who's hiring the indie dev. They're the ones relaunching the brand, building the Pizzaplex over the burial ground. So everything at the end of the timeline relies on this one singular answer. Now, as I see it, there are two possibilities here. One, an adult robot Elizabeth, like we see older versions of robot kids in the fourth closet, or Mrs. Afton. Could it be someone completely new to the franchise? Absolutely yes, but in a game with so many returning faces and repeated themes, it would be pretty random and arbitrary. So, between these two girl bosses, who then would it be? Well, Elizabeth always wants to please her daddy, so she'd be most likely wanting to bring...
You know, she could have been the main antagonist, also known main villain, in Security Breach, besides William Afton. Because her goal is to bring her family back, and Gregory, all Gregory had to do is, stop Vanessa and stop on William Afton's mother, her old mother, for bringing back William Afton. That should have been a plot line. Just stop them from bringing back William Afton. But no, they made a plot point of some type of big fat ugly monster trying to kill off, the Athens family. Well, that would make sense of the villain's motives.
bring him to life. But then, what's Vanessa's role in all of this? Vanessa is clearly meant to be a parallel for Elizabeth. Same hair, same eyes, similar backstories, but if the main goal is getting the Afton family back together, which seems to clearly be the case in Security Breach, then there's no need for Vanessa to be involved at all. We already have Elizabeth running the show. It would also mean that we suddenly have two robot kids running around, which feels narratively repetitive and quite frankly kind of dumb. Now look at Mrs. Afton. We know next to nothing about her outside of any clues that we can get from Immortal and the Restless and Laura's song. But what her being head of Fazbear does is make every other piece of the lore fit. Suddenly, you can have one of every other type of character. One robot kid in Gregory, one brainwashed human in Elizabeth/Vanessa, one OG corpse in William, and one possessed animatronic in Mike. Narratively, it makes...
Oh, she's brainwashed. I thought, Vanessa is some type of, was possessed by a ghost robot, like William Afton, to do everything in his biddings. But no, she was possessed. Poor Vanessa. And Gregory is a robot.
Everything else cleaner. Legally, it's also the option that makes the most sense. As I call out in my
So why
narrative,
does
she'd likely
Gregory
have
look
some stake in the
realistic
original
if he's a
company and all
robot?
of its assets. So as Fazbear
It
folds as a
might
company, I'd
not make
suspect a
it
lot of
might
it would
not be
return
true
back to
because
her. But there
why
was
does he
one
look
clue that
realistic?
really sold me on this particular direction, and that was this right
Besides
here in the
looking like a
post-it
robot.
room. The big lore central of Security Breach, a dinner table scene with the whole family, including the mother. And not only is she there, she is at the head of that table, the position of highest honor and responsibility. She is the one in charge, with William being relegated off to the side. That one scene shows that we have to include Mom in there somewhere, and the only place it makes sense for her to be is at the top. Now, there is one big dilemma with my interpretation of all this. The Ultimate Guide really seems to point out that the head of Fazbear doesn't want the glitch trap virus to spread. They call out one particular email in FNAF AR where the legal team calls a cease and desist to all action about scanning the circuit boards. And even in FNAF VR, we're told that the circuit boards get stolen back by the client, presumably once they realize what danger is on there, trying to stop Glitch Trap before he spreads and gets out of hand. Here's the problem with that though, if the head of Fazbear doesn't want Afton to rise again, why'd they restart the company in the first place? Why'd they build over the FNAF 6 pizzeria? Why'd they go through an elaborate cover-up to make the possessed Vanessa an important part of the company? Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It would be the most inconsistent series of actions ever, but I did want to call attention to it since it seems to be the route that the official guide is trying to steer us towards. Moving on to minor point number 1, the Five Nights at Freddy's games were made by the rogue indie developer. Here's the thing, FNAF VR opens with this line.
That's why we have recreated many of these completely fictitious scenarios, lies that you've been fed over the last several years, into a hilarious VR game.
It's recreating the lies told to you by the indie developer. And since Help Wanted has direct recreations of FNAFs 1 through 3, it means the games must be part of the fabrications that this developer made up. Also, all of this is heavily implied in the story of the same name, Help Wanted and Tales of the Pizzaplex, hence FNAF 1 through 3, canon games within the lore of the series. Big swing number 2, the elephant, or ghost in the room, Charlie infecting the Pizzaplex. John from the channel FNAF has made some great findings about Charlie's influence over the Pizzaplex. The cables that looked like the striped arms of the puppet, the Nightmarion plushies that you find hidden across the Pizzaplex in weird places, the staff bots with creepy smiles and in your dreams written on the front. All of these things scream puppets. Plus, the puppet mask not having tears in the blob seems to imply that Charlie's spirit
Oh my
exists
God, the
elsewhere.
puppet's
She is
back.
still in play, and she has an important
Charlie?
role, especially in Gregory's post-it room. The
Did
doors to
Charlie
the
just
post-it
take a
room in the
break
game's
already?
code are called
Just-
Charlie
just,
doors.
you know,
And inside, we see a
free
bunch
for
of lit up
once?
nightmare staff bot heads. Suspicious, to
Poor
say the least.
Charlie,
The channel
please-
ID Fantasy
please,
did a
you know,
great
a
theory
break.
looking at the
She
post-it
needs to be
notes,
free for
concluding that the
once.
crying child / Gregory isn't
She
alone in this
possessed
room,
by
but rather
Fred
might be
Bear,
communicating
and
with
now
someone. A spirit,
this?
Charlie. Charlie's spirit seems to have pulled a poltergeist.
I thought
Instead of controlling
when the
one
pizza
thing, she's
place
affecting a
burned
lot of
down,
little
they're all
details,
free.
foundational
But
elements of the
they
Pizzaplex.
never
And this
was.
isn't the first time that we've seen this in the franchise either. We've seen spirits communicating with people through physical writing in the survival logbook. So we know that this is an established means of spirit communication within this franchise. And I suspect that to some extent it might be Charlie's influence making Gregory go haywire. Which brings me then to my final and probably biggest controversy in recent FNAF history, Gregory as Patient 46, the evil robot mastermind. Now, I know when I first came out with this theory a year ago, people were mad. But here's the thing, you don't have to take my evidence points for it anymore. The recent Tales from the Pizzaplex story, GGY, basically goes and just outright proves it. In GGY, we find out about a boy named Gregory who's getting all the high scores in the Pizzaplex arcade machines. When therapists start to go missing, it's confirmed that GGY is the one that's working to bump them off. And when animatronics start getting corrupted by a mysterious glitch, GGY's letters are found inside the code. He even chooses the code name Dr. Rabbit, for crying out loud. But obviously, by the time of Security Breach, Gregory is working against Burn Trap, Vanessa, and the animatronics. Why? How? Well, it's not really clear. I tend to believe that something must have happened to cause him to either lose his memory or be reset in some way. Maybe it was Charlie talking to him in his post-it room. Maybe he hit his head. Maybe it was the connection that he made with Mike on stage in Glamrock Freddy. Not exactly sure, and I don't think we have enough clues to solve any of it yet. But it makes sense from a story perspective why he'd start off evil on Afton's side and then switch to trying to destroy him and not knowing who he is in Security Breach. And with that, my friends, I'm wrapping this thing up. Congratulations, we are on page 40. 22,000 words of FNAF, baby. Practically just wrote myself a Tales of the Pizzaplex short story. Have I answered everything? No. Does everything fit cleanly? No. But does it feel like the best and most cohesive narrative for all these characters that addresses most of the evidence we're given? Yeah. For me, honestly, it really does. And let's be honest with ourselves, the DLC will probably come out later this year and prove me completely wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. Then comes the movie, whatever. My descent into madness continues. And with that, my friends, we can finally rest. I can leave the demon to its demons with one final reminder that it was all just a theory. A game
Oh
theory.
right,
Thanks
he's
for
in the
watching.
movie. Oh right,
Alright, hey
wait,
everybody.
did he just say the line? Oh right, no wonder why I recognize him. He's from the FNAF movie as a cameo. You know, from that gas station store when he said the line, "It's just a theory." The wonder why it went viral is because he was one of the lovable YouTubers. It's one of those YouTubers, Corey and other YouTubers who were in the FNAF movie. Man, I heard one of them. However, he was in the movie due to schedule issues. So yeah, I heard some people been saying he's a FNAF king, but yeah.
My name's P-Man. I just want to say good job to Game Theory for making all those videos, and all the I just combined all those videos as you just watched. So good job Game Theory, and subscribe to Game Theory. Subscribe for more FNAF gameplay on me and FNAF theories on the Game Theory. Like I said, those videos are mine. They're gonna be in the link down below. And so yeah, they're all in the link down below. Um, yeah, like and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Well, at least it's short though. Okay, guys. I think that's all. So far, I guess I should try to play the games. But I guess I want to play Security Breach because I just bought the game since a few months ago, ever since the movie announced. I played a little bit of it. I didn't push it all of the games, but I guess I want to focus on Security Breach. I guess. Bye. Anyways, bye guys. Scooby out. That's it for this live stream. Goodbye. Man, so far. But I still cannot believe that. But guys, I still cannot believe that Michael's mother, William Afton's wife, has brought him back. Like, come on. Can we just take a break from William Afton already? We see him enough. We see him enough. And plus, and, and plus, I do like William Afton. He's a really great villain with a great motive and with a great backstory. Yeah, I really do. But man, but I do feel bad for him at times. But at times I do feel bad for him, but sometimes I don't. Like his busy he keeps getting copied on by 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 handy guy. Harry. I forgot what his name is, and his son's death. His son and daughter's death. His son's death, which I feel very sad about because one of Harry, yeah, Henry. One of Harry's animatronics named Fredbear causes the bite of 83, which kills his own son. I feel bad for him. I sincerely do. Especially the fact how he how he lost his loving daughter, which makes him turn evil, which makes him turn evil. But Michael Apton, he's a great protagonist. But but I feel his pain of having nightmares. Having nightmares is horrifying, especially the crying child. The crying child suffered enough, but he was replaced by Gregory, which, poor William Afton. But he hates Michael so much. But the only child he hates is Michael. One responsible for his father's death and make his life a living hell. Yeah, William Afton is a great villain so far. The animatronics are, the animatronics, are so great too. They're terrifying. Yeah, I guess I can try to play, Five Nights at Freddy's. Not the first game or second or third or fourth or fifth. The security breach because I just got that game. Anyways, bye guys. That's it for today.